everyone. Welcome. This is the Black Belt to Business Owner Podcast, episode 4. Let me finish getting everything set up here before we get started. If you're watching this, let me know. Drop in the chat or in the comments that you are here. Let me know if you are live or if you're watching the recording. Got everything coming up here. Very good. All right, today is going to be a fun one that I've kind of been wanting to talk about for a little while. There we go. Everything's up here now. Beautiful. So if you see me looking over here, I have my notes as always. But again, if you're watching this, let me know if you're watching it live or if you are watching the recording or the replay. Let me know in the comments or in the chat. But if you don't know who I am, my name is Seth Heller. I've been a martial artist since I was a kid, about 20 years now, and I've been coaching kids and adults in martial arts for over a decade. The last 5 years, I ran the martial arts school that I grew up in. I was the office manager and one of the lead instructors. And last summer in June, I moved from New Jersey, where the school was, down to Florida to start my own martial arts business and start building up my own program into what I want it to be, a global brand and program that helps people all around the world. The purpose of this channel and a lot of my social profiles is really just to document the journey, best practices, experiences, for me personally to look back on and for others to look back on and potentially be inspired by what I'm doing, but really just help people along the way understand that they can do it too, learn from some of the mistakes that I make, and then, like I said, have something for me to look back on a little bit as well. So this episode, we're going to talk about the saga that has been happening between myself and the YMCA. So we're going to get into that in a minute. We're also going to touch on my shoulder recovery. As you can see, I'm still in a sling. I'm about 3 weeks post-op on my shoulder, and then some upcoming opportunities over the next couple of weeks as we are ringing in the new year. So make sure that you like and subscribe. We are almost at 100 subs, which is really, really cool, honestly, and that's been built mostly off of just shorts and a couple of videos here and there. But make sure you like and subscribe, and then drop a comment if you are watching it live in the chat, or comment if you are watching the replay. If there are any questions in the chat, which there haven't been yet, but if there are, I'm going to save some time at the end for that. So if you have a question, drop that in the chat too. So getting into the YMCA saga first. So back in last January, I was reaching out to a bunch of different community organizations, private schools, all kinds of stuff like that. If you guys have seen the last couple of episodes, you know generally about the story of me starting my business. But what was happening is I was reaching out, trying to partner with different organizations to have the opportunity to work with them as I try to build up the program and my brand in a completely new area. One of the contacts that I had reached out to was the YMCA. Now there was one. There were a few that I reached out to. There were actually 3 or 4 that I had reached out to initially, and one of them had come back to me and said, oh, this sounds like a cool opportunity. This could be something that we do over the summer and then even into the next school year. Do you want to set up a meeting? And I was like, yes, absolutely. I would love to set up a meeting. So I get on a Teams meeting with one of the directors over there. I believe she was like the elementary school programming director or something along those lines. And we were talking, and I was pretty nervous for the meeting. I didn't really know what to say or what to expect. I had some stuff prepared for what I wanted the program to look like, some ideas that I had, but generally I was kind of going in blind outside of that. So we talked about, what programs could look like. We talked a little bit about my background, how long I've been teaching and doing martial arts and when I'm moving and all that kind of stuff. And again, this was back in January of last year or February, and I didn't move until June, until the summer. So the meeting itself went really well, and one of the biggest things that we had talked about was some opportunities for summer camps over the summer once I got here. So that was kind of left off from that meeting as the most plausible option. So we were going back and forth and following up after that. So then a couple of months later, we're getting into April now, there was an opportunity, their Healthy Kids Day, that came up. And Healthy Kids Day was essentially they bring in a bunch of vendors, and the vendors have an opportunity to give stuff out. I think a couple of them were able to sell stuff, and it was really just a free community event for people to come in, spend the day, have a good time, and meet some local businesses, good people. So about a week, maybe a little bit less, before Healthy Kids Day, and she had told me about it on that initial meeting, but I was like, I'm not sure. About a week ahead of time, we had finalized an opportunity for a summer camp, like I had mentioned. So we were talking about that a little bit. We had finalized an opportunity for summer camp, and she thought it would be a good idea for me to be at Healthy Kids Day in order to help promote the summer camp and what I was going to be doing when I get down there. And I was like, yeah, it definitely would be a good opportunity, but I'm not down there yet, but I think I can make it work. So I bought a plane ticket. I bought a bunch of supplies that I was going to need for the event, and then I flew down here and I made it happen. And my girlfriend helped me a lot, so I'm very grateful to her for helping out and being part of that day. But I bought a couple of things to be able to run a little obstacle course for the kids. I had some flyers printed up. I had business cards. We had like a big prize wheel that we would have the kids spin, and they could spin it and they would win a prize, or they'd have to do some sort of exercise like burpees or frog jumps or something if they landed on that spot. And overall, it was a really good time. I was pretty nervous going into it. I wasn't sure what to expect. We did have people sign up to be able to, we were doing like a giveaway. So we had people sign up in order to do the obstacle course so that they could enter into the giveaway. And I was able to collect some contact information there, which was really nice. But overall, the day went really well. Kids had a blast on the obstacle course. We were busy for like 2.5 hours. Pretty much the entire time that we were there, we had people coming up, running the course, spinning the wheel. It was pretty nuts, honestly. It was pretty nuts. And so that went really well. I followed up with everyone afterwards. Didn't really hear a whole lot, but since I wasn't moving until June, didn't really expect much to come of that right then and there. It was more of a long-term play to promote the summer camp. So we get closer to the summer camp sessions, which I believe were supposed to be at the beginning of July. So we get to about a week out, and I'm not hearing anything from them. Like, I'm not getting any emails or any type of communication from them about registration. So I go over, or I call them first, and I get kind of an idea. And then another week or so goes by, and I go over there, which it's about 30 to 45 minutes from where I live currently. So it was a little bit of a hike and a little bit more than I initially intended. But I go over there, and I check in, and they're like, yeah, there's only one person for this session and 2 people for this session. I was supposed to run 2 week-long sessions for different ages. I was like, okay, what can I do to help? So they were like, oh, if you can, I was like, I can make a little promotional video that we can put out. And they were like, yeah, it's a great idea. We can post it as a reel on our Instagram and on Facebook, and we can email it out, and we can play it at the front desk. And I was like, okay, great. I'll do that. So I take like a day or two, and I put that reel together, and I send it to them. Nothing. Don't hear a thing. Until like another week later. So now, and I misspoke before, but now we're a couple days out pretty much. And I get an email confirming, they're like, yeah, we're gonna cancel the first session. There's just not enough people registered. And I'm like, okay. What about my video? What about anything that I was trying to do? Are you guys actually trying to promote it? Like, I was pretty pissed off at that point, pretty frustrated. And I was like, okay, whatever. Did you see the video? And I still don't hear anything back. So another couple days goes by, and I end up getting another email. They canceled the second session. So both of the week-long sessions didn't have enough enrollment, enough registration, and we canceled both of them. So at that point, this Y was too far, right? It was further than I wanted to go, especially for the area that I wanted to operate in, the area where I wanted to potentially have my school and work with different places in. And it didn't seem like they were particularly invested in what I was trying to do, in me or the program, and they weren't working with me, right? Like, they weren't communicating with me. So I kind of dropped that one. I was like, okay, I don't think this is going to work out. And it ends up that there was another Healthy Family Day. So same concept, but just slightly different branding, I guess. Healthy Family Day in August. And I had reached out to a different YMCA. And before I moved, I told you I had reached out to like 4 different Ys back in January or February of last year. And one of the directors at a different Y, not the one that I had the camps planned for, but a different one was like, yeah, when you're in town, like come stop by, basically. I was like, okay. So I took him up on that. I emailed him. I stopped by, and I had the opportunity to talk with some of the people who ran like the youth programming, and they invited me to have a booth at their Healthy Family Day. So same concept. I ran an obstacle course. I had a little bit more gear at that point. We ran the prize wheel. It went much more smoothly than the last time, much better in general. I was feeling much better about it because I knew more of what to expect. So that was really, really good. We talked to actually one or two of the board members at that Y. And we talked to a lot of the parents, just a lot of good people and contacts in general. We got the opportunity to talk to at this event. And it was a really good opportunity because they really, really loved how I interacted with the kids, which kids are my specialty. That's who I primarily work with. But it was a really good opportunity to work with them and show everyone what I can do, as I'm trying to start out my business and get this program off the ground. So, I got really good feedback. We were talking about potentially setting up a kids program at the Y. We were talking about running some self-defense classes. There was a lot of opportunity there, a lot of interest, a lot of opportunity. So I set up a meeting with, I think she is the director of youth programs or assistant director or something along those lines of the youth programming. She runs the youth programming at the Y for the most part. So I had a meeting and we talked about a bunch of different ideas that we had. She gave me some good ideas. We were kind of bouncing stuff off of each other, how it could potentially work. We were trying to work out like a third-party vendor type of situation, so that it would be lucrative for the Y, but also lucrative and make sense for me and for the time that I would be putting into the program. So we had a really good conversation, and I followed up with an email like she had asked, just kind of laying out all the different options so she could send it to the higher ups, the powers that be, and start to get the ball rolling. So I sent that email over. She also gave me her personal phone number to text her because sometimes it's just a little bit easier. And I didn't hear anything back. You'll find that this is a theme. So I didn't hear anything back. Email, I texted, I called the Y, nothing. I go over and I visit the Y, and I get we'll let them know. And then if you don't hear anything by the end of the week, send another email. Okay. So I wait a little bit, send another email. I make another phone call. I text again. I do all the follow-up things, right? And still nothing. Still don't hear anything back. So I go and I visit again. And at this point, I'm like, I just want an answer. If it's no, tell me no. Let me move on. But I needed some sort of closure at least, right? And I didn't feel like I was being pushy. It's not like I was calling and texting and emailing every single day. It was like every couple of days I would send another message because I just wasn't getting an answer. So I go over there and I leave a note. And about an hour or two later, I get an email from the one director guy that had emailed me back earlier in the year. And he was like, I'm sorry we haven't gotten back to you. I got your note. We can't bring you on as like a third-party vendor, but it's possible that we could bring you on as an employee to launch and run this program. And I was like, okay, that's something to think about. I wasn't super sure if that was going to be the best opportunity at the time. But after some thinking, it turned out to be something that I did want to at least pursue and see what we could make of it. So he put me in contact with their wellness director, and which would be the team essentially that I would be working under if I were to be an employee and run the program. So I have a meeting with the wellness director. I go there in person, and we were tossing around some ideas. We were trying to figure out some of the logistics of how it works. I was telling a little bit about my story and my background, getting her abreast of the situation and what I can bring to the program. So we had a really good conversation, and she seemed really, really excited about the prospect of bringing this program, of working with me. She was very adamant that she wanted to make sure it was going to be worth my time and worth my while in terms of pay and all that kind of stuff. So we were trying to figure out how we could make it work. And she needed to talk with, her bosses, the people that were above her. So I followed up with an email like she had asked me to. I gave her some of the info that she asked me to give her, and she went and she talked to the people that were above her about what are my options, basically. And it took a little while to hear back again. But what we did get to was that I would have to become an employee, and I would actually have to get this certain specific certification, a group exercise certification or personal training certification. Either or would have been fine. There's a little bit more I could do with the personal training certification than the group exercise, but either one would be fine for what I wanted to do. And she had told me, she was like, yeah, don't spend more than this amount, because you can usually get them for pretty cheap. Like it's not that big of a deal. So I go and I do some research, and I'm looking for these certifications, and I don't really find a whole lot. I'm finding a couple things. I find a couple of like pretty cheap ones, but they looked kind of sketchy. I wasn't really loving them, wasn't really feeling like they made sense. But some of the accredited ones, like the really, really legit ones, were like $1,000. And I'm like, I don't know if I can spend that right now when I don't even know if this is going to happen. So I end up finding one where it wasn't like officially accredited by, the organization who does that, I guess, in the United States. But they were like the most legit one that I had found that wasn't accredited. Like the website was professional, the certifications all looked professional. So they actually also let me take the exam online before I purchased the certification. So I took the one for group exercise and for personal training, and I passed those like pretty easily. So I send the info to her, and I'm like, would this certification work? I passed the exams. All I would have to do is pay for the certification, and then I'll be good to go. And I didn't hear back for a couple days. Then I get an email, and she's like, I have to reach out to HR. I'm not sure if these would work, but I will keep you posted. So I'm waiting. I was looking into some of the other ones. I was like, okay, maybe it's worth investing into this personal training certification, even if I'm not working at the Y. Sorry, let me just move up my mic a little bit. Even if I'm not working at the Y, it'd still be a valuable thing to have. So I was looking into it. I did like a free trial for this one so I could look around and just get a little bit of more of an understanding of what I should be looking for. And she comes back to me again, and she's like, still haven't heard from HR, but here's the list of certifications that we typically accept. So I should have asked for that in the first place, honestly. So that's my mistake. It's an opportunity for me to learn. But I get the list, and I do some research on everything on the list, and I'm like, okay, I need to just do this. I need to go ahead and purchase certification, take the exam, and go. Now, originally, I was thinking, especially for the personal training certification, I was expecting to have to do like a lot of studying, a lot of learning about it. I've been in the martial arts industry for 10 years, teaching, coaching, working with people, and attending different seminars, improving my skills, working my craft. And I've been studying fitness and exercise for pretty much that long as well. Not like officially studying. I don't have a degree. I don't have certifications or anything. But just for my own personal benefit and to start work with others on like an informal basis to help them, I've done a lot of research and a lot of study. Again, I don't have those certifications, but I do have a good base of knowledge already. So when I went to take those exams online, the ones that I could take before purchasing the certification, I surprised myself a little bit by how well I did, and I was like, okay, maybe I won't need to study that much to get this certification. So at this point, I was convinced that I could just purchase the certification or the course, take the exam within a day or two, and be fine. And that was my intention. So I find the certification based off of the list that she'd given me that was the best value. So it made them like it would work, but it was inexpensive, and to me, I can reinvest into myself on a better certification later down the line if I really need to. But right now, I need to get the ball rolling here. So I purchased the certification, and I scheduled to take the exam the next day. This was this week, by the way. So Monday, I purchased the certification, and Tuesday, I scheduled the exam for at 2 p.m. So Monday night, there was a practice exam that I could take. So I take it once, I do okay, I review the answers, I do a little bit of studying, I take some notes, and I take it again, I do a little bit better. Not as good as I wanted to, but a little bit better. So the next day, I was like, all right, I'm going to dedicate the whole morning and the early afternoon to studying so that when I go to take the exam, I'll be ready to go and I should be fine. So I go through the course, and I'm taking all of the chapter quizzes basically. They're all like 15 to 20 questions or so. Some of them I do really well. Some of them I do pretty poorly. And a lot of the ones that I didn't do well were ones that had to do with a lot of like dance and logistics. Like a lot of the classes that they cater to are, Zumba and Pilates and stuff like that, where there's high-pitched music, that you have certain amount of beats and certain steps and rhythm and all that kind of stuff that you're doing. And like, that's not what I do. Like, I'm a martial arts coach. That's not what I do. But that's what they seem to be focusing on. So a lot of that was new to me and was kind of giving me trouble. So I was getting a little worried at this point that I might not be ready for the exam. Mind you, there was a retest fee if I failed it and needed to take it again. That was almost as much as the certification itself. So that added a little bit of extra pressure. But 2 o'clock comes around, and I get on the exam, and it's a fully proctored exam. Like, it's very secure, very legit. I had to show them like around the room to make sure no one was here, and I didn't have like secret notes posted all over the place. And there was a guy watching me the whole time. It was really, really legit. I've never taken an exam like that before, and I was honestly pretty impressed about how secure and legit it was. But I take the exam, and I'm going through this, and some of the questions I answer really quickly, no problem. Some of the questions, it takes me a little while to think about it, but I was able to get confident enough on the answer. And some of them I was like, it could be this one or that one. I just kind of have to guess, or pick the one that I think is most right. So it's a 150 question exam. Takes me about an hour and a half, and I get the results pretty much right away. So I click off the exam, and I go and I check, and I passed. The threshold was, there was a minimum score was 200, the maximum score was 800. The threshold for passing was 500. I got a 516, which can't say that I'm proud of, but considering that a lot of the information was newer to me, I'll take it. The joke that I've been making for the last week since doing this is, what do you call the guy who graduates at the bottom of his class in medical school? A doctor, right? And people are just going to care about the certification. They're not going to care about the score that I got on an exam. But barely passing was like, whew, it felt good. It felt good to get that off my chest. So immediately I email the certification over to the wellness director over at the Y that I'm trying to work with. And I'm like, okay, I have the certification. Now we can get onboarding and we can get the ball rolling. Meanwhile, she basically told me that I need the certification and we need to get me onboarded before we can even think about setting up the program. So at that point, I have a 15 email series ready to go to launch the program to members at the Y. I have a landing page on my website ready to go, ready to be published to start promoting it to the Y. Like, I have a lot of this stuff, the marketing materials ready to go, and I know how the program is going to run because I know how I teach and how I run a martial arts program for kids and for adults. So, but we couldn't do any of that. We couldn't discuss any of that until I got the certification. And this has been a couple of weeks that this has been kind of going on and been lingering in the background, and over the holidays and all that stuff, everything slows down. So it's really been weighing on me. So getting this off of my chest was a really, really good opportunity to start moving forward and take this next big step. And so ironically, she emailed me back like right away as soon as I sent in the certificate. I was like, amazing, super excited, let's go. Now you just need to go onto the website or go onto the Y's website, apply for the job, and next week when I'm back in the office, she said she would address it. So it's looking like next week we're going to really be able to start to get the ball rolling. I'll also be able to start driving next week because I will be able to take the sling off, so that'll be nice. So what's coming next? And I want to touch on something real quick before I talk about what my understanding of the timeline for the Y is so far. But a common theme in a lot of the things that I have succeeded with in my business so far has been follow-up, like relentless follow-up. If you guys remember, I've been talking about a private school that I'm working with. I had an 8-week session over the fall and the winter. I have another 8-week session starting next week with them, and that came about strictly on relentless follow-up. This opportunity with the Y came from relentless follow-up, emails, texts, phone calls, visiting there. And it's not super close. It's 20, 25 minutes away. It's a hike to go over there to talk to someone and then drive back. I'm totally willing to do it. I got to do what I got to do, but it's having that relentless drive and follow-up and purpose has been huge. And that's been the one thing that's, like I said, the one thing that's really helped me be successful. The little bit of success that I've had in my business so far, that's been the biggest thing. And that's really what I want to emphasize is if you have a business, if you're starting a business, if you're thinking about starting a business, yes, you'll have to do more than you think you will. It's always a volume game. You always are going to have to do more, put more effort in, put more hours in, put more time in. But even for opportunities that seem like they are slow, not moving as fast as you want, if they're slow going, or maybe they seem like they're dead opportunities, that relentless pursuit, that relentless follow-up has made a huge difference for me and is something that I am incredibly proud of, something that I've really developed over the last 12 years or so, especially if you guys know my story of getting my black belt in martial arts. Perseverance is at the helm of that. Resilience, perseverance is at the helm of that, and that's why that theme is very prevalent in how I'm naming my program, which we'll get to at a later date. But that is something that I wanted to emphasize, that just pushing hard and trying and continuing to try and reach out and following up has been so important and is something that I'm really taking with me moving forward for all of the things that I try to do in my business. Is that follow-up is key. It's so important. But anyway, next steps for the Y, I heard from the wellness director, she said next week she's going to address the job application. We'll go through everything. We'll get the onboarding process going, and hopefully we'll be able to start talking about the launch of the program. So I told you I already have prepped, the email series, the landing page. I have a flyer, the schedule. A lot of that stuff I already have in place. We just have to kind of iron out some of the details. But I actually had a call with a mentor earlier this week, and he had brought up a really good idea, which is something that I've kind of been sitting on for a while, but him emphasizing it definitely helped me realize the importance of it. Because I've been struggling with how I want to run the program, because I don't know exactly what the Y expects, what they expect the program to look like, or what they want the program to look like versus what I want the program to look like. And I haven't really been able to do a whole lot of prep for it outside of the marketing stuff because of that, because I don't know exactly what they want or what I want. I know generally what I want, but I don't know what they want compared to what I want, if that makes sense. So what he said was, lay out the program exactly how you want it. If you were to have your own school and open up your own program, what would you want it to look like? And then you can bring that to the Y and be like, here's what, from my experience, here's what I want the program to look like. Then we can start talking. We can start to have a conversation. We can open up the floor and they can tell me, okay, we can't do this. This isn't going to work. Oh, but this, and this are good. And then I can modify the program. And I don't expect it to be 100% of what I want it to be if I were to have a dedicated facility. So I can modify it. It can be 50%, 60%, 80% of what I want it to be ultimately at its highest point. And then we can adjust things from there. Because this isn't my own place, right? This isn't my own facility. This is me running a program through the Y. But if I have at least an idea of what I want it to look like, I can present it to them and we can start negotiations, essentially. We can start to have that conversation and they'll have an idea of what my expectations are for it to run, because they don't know a whole lot about running a martial arts program, right? They don't know what it's necessarily going to look like. I'm the expert here in this scenario. So all that being said, that is the saga with the YMCA so far. Updated on that, on how it's going, how when I hear back and all that kind of stuff. I've mentioned a few times I'm planning on doing this live weekly to document all the things that I'm doing and everything that's happening in my journey. So I should have an update on the Y next week once I hear back from them. But I will certainly keep everyone updated here as things happen. But a couple of housekeeping points before we start to wrap up. No chats are coming through or anything like that, so I don't think we're going to have any Q&A at the end. But if you are watching the replay, let me know. Drop a comment, drop a question if you have. I'm always looking for comments to respond to. First and foremost, my shoulder surgery. I am a little bit past 3 weeks post-op now. Feeling really good. I had my first post-op appointment on Monday. I got the stitches out, and everything is looking really, really good. I posted a full update video on that on my Instagram and TikTok and all my other, and actually it's on a short on here as well, so you can check that out. But recovery's going really well. I also had my first PT sessions this week. I'm a little sore today after doing PT Wednesday and yesterday. They're stretching me out pretty good, but range of motion is looking good. Everything's feeling good. I am in a really good place, and next week I'm going to start to wean out of the sling, have it off probably at least about 50% of the time, and really only have it on when I'm going out of the house as kind of a sign and a warning to other people to stay away from it. If you know, you know. But yeah, so I'll be weaning out of it for about 2 weeks starting next week, and then after 6 weeks I should be out of the sling completely. Upcoming opportunities. So I mentioned this towards the beginning of the live. I do have a couple of cool opportunities coming up. Number one, I mentioned it earlier, still working with that private school. We are doing another 8-week session. This time, so I had 21 kids in the last session, which was awesome, and I was not expecting nearly that many kids, but it was a little bit hectic with me really being the only instructor in there. I had a high school freshman that was volunteering. He didn't have any martial arts experience, didn't really have any experience working with kids. So he was helpful in certain aspects, in certain circumstances, but couldn't really help facilitate the class very much. So I decided that I wanted to limit the class size to give everyone the best experience possible. It was still a really good session, and all of the kids made improvements in their own ways. Some more than others, of course, but I had kids that were running around bouncing off the walls weeks 1 and 2, and by weeks 6, 7, 8, they were sitting still, they were following directions, they were listening, they were participating really well. So it's really, really cool the transformation that can happen with that type of consistency and effort and just attention that they're given, like genuine caring and attention from people that are working with them. But I want to make sure that I can focus on each individual kid as much as they deserve and as much as they need in order to give them the best experience possible. So we limited the group to 15 this time, and we did up the price for that reason. So I get a registration actually launched on Wednesday night, so 2 days ago, and I get a text yesterday morning saying that the class filled up overnight again. It did the first time back in October, and it did again this time. So I have 15 kids locked in and ready to go starting next Thursday. So I am very, very excited for that. I'm really excited that it filled up so quickly again. It's really, really affirming to me that people like what I'm doing and that they're excited about the program, excited about the opportunity for it. And I'm curious how many of the people are returning from the last session. There are a handful that I'm like, yeah, I don't think they're coming back. But there were a good amount that seemed to really enjoy it, the kids and the parents. And I'm excited to see how many are returning students and how many are going to be new students. So that's the first thing. The second thing, I'm not sure how much I've talked about it on these lives, but with the Spear system, with the self-defense system that I'm affiliated with, they have a program called Be Your Own Bodyguard. And a couple months ago, I got certified to teach the program. It's a one-day course to teach self-defense like CPR. So the goal is to make people safer in a day, give them all the tools and opportunities they need, the knowledge they need to become safer and to choose safety when danger is imminent. And I was supposed to run one of these, my first one, early in December, but we had a lot of trouble with registration, just time of year, holidays, weekends, all that kind of stuff was crazy. So we decided that we were going to postpone it, and I have been having trouble getting in contact with the gym that I was supposed to run it at, which is neither here nor there. Like, to an extent, I understand, like, holidays happen. It's a really big, busy time of year for gyms. So I'm trying to temper my expectations a little bit, but it is a little bit frustrating. Even just trying to get like a callback or a text or an email or anything like that. So another opportunity where I just need to follow up relentlessly. But we'd even talked about setting up some sort of martial arts class weekly for their adult members, and just like a once a week kind of thing so they can get to know me a little bit more and I can build a little bit more rapport with the community to potentially boost attendance for the BYOB events later on. So that's something we talked about. So I'm still working to get that going. And then there's another gym that I've worked with a little bit here and there over the last couple of months. And we are also discussing setting up a younger kids program, like a 4 to 6 year old program, maybe once a week or something. So that is an opportunity that is in front of me, that is open, and that I'm working on bringing to light as well. And that kind of crystallizes where I'm at right now. My position is the YMCA. The goal is to make that my home base for the most part right now, and then have some of these other little satellite programs, the private school, these couple of gyms where I'm going out and I'm teaching. And as I'm building up my reputation, my brand in the community at all these different places, the goal is to, within a year or 2 years, I don't have a solid timeline or rigid timeline right now, but work to having my own dedicated facility where I can bring all these different places in, all these different students and people that I've worked with, maintain relationships with the different organizations, the gyms and all that, but bring all these people into one space, into my program where I can run it exactly how I want it and provide the most value possible. So that's where I'm at in terms of some of the housekeeping stuff and updates on what I'm doing. No questions in the chat right now. That's fine. If you have a question, if you're watching this later on, drop it in the comments. I'll be happy to respond. Maybe if there's a handful of them, I'll pick them out and I'll respond in the next video next week. But like I said, next Friday, usually it'll probably end up being like late mornings that I'm going to be going live, just because that's when no one's really in the apartment. So it gives me the quiet time, the area that I can do this. So that's the plan. Late mornings, maybe around like 10, 11 o'clock or so is when I might end up doing these moving forward, but we shall see. I'm going to be at the gym a little bit more starting next week once I can drive again, so that may affect the schedule a little bit, but you guys will see the lives. Again, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. Thank you for watching, especially if you made it this far. Really, really appreciate you joining me on this journey, and I will see you guys in the next one.